This young man only needs the blink skill to take down the final boss. And then the end of this flashy scene is him along with the dark demon dragon Midnight 13 months, reincarnating into the ether world. Right when everything started, it was so unlucky. As soon as Baek opened his eyes to see the situation, he was chased by a group of assassins who wanted to catch his breath. Where did that despicable boy run to? The mysterious black-clothed people shouted to search for Baek's whereabouts. There's a house over there, go up there and search quickly. One person realized and then shouted. Baek was scared and silently observed. How come I have so little time now to hide, but I don't have the strength to fight them? He held his hand tightly, trying to use his 10 years of experience to rush out with this account to think of a way to cope. But before, it was just a simple operation, then reincarnating into the character itself now. Oh, why is it so extreme? You can use the blink skill at the screen. The system suddenly sent a notification. Baek was stunned, wondering, what the hell, can I use blink? Baek quickly opened the information to check. Blink level 0, maximum distance 9 meters, maximum use 1, cooldown 3 seconds. It was quite difficult to confront all those assassins with just this one move. There wasn't much time left. Baek had no choice but to close his eyes and take a risk. Baek ran as hard as he could outside. As soon as the others saw it, they howled enthusiastically to chase after them. Baek took the first steps, announcing the first part of the tutorial also rang out. The requirement of this section is to run away from the pursuers with blink. It's all snow ahead, and stormy winds make the environment even more harsh. Baek still threw himself into the wind, running as he silently thought, his pursuers wore magic shoes so they ran faster than me. Furthermore, the only way I can successfully escape is to use blink. Calm down. You've used blink countless times, the sense of timing is deeply ingrained in your instincts. This bastard, aren't you going to stop? Those people are still constantly close. Baek ran back to observe. He knew blink's biggest flaw was that if users couldn't control the distance, they could bump into an object and meet their ancestors immediately, but with him is different. The moment the other group pressed and swung their knives to prepare enough for him, Baek suddenly blink made them itchy and surprised. Baek happily opened his mouth and smiled, I did it. The other guys fell backwards, swooped sideways and stopped. Brew, that's blink, he's a magician, the leader is still determined to catch him. Angry and screaming at the juniors, don't be discouraged, after using blink, users often get numb for about 2 seconds, so that's a good thing for us. But his judgment was wrong. Baek didn't encounter anything paralyzing, he was still rushing forward like an arrow. Wait, how the hell did that bastard move? They turned to look at each other and asked. Baek still had no intention of stopping, his whole body smelled of sweat, panting like a dog, looking forward trying to reassure himself, be careful, moreover, I had to take advantage of the terrain rough here. Because players who cannot learn how to use blink at this time will not be able to pass the next part. But in reality, 99% of players using the character Baek cannot pass this tutorial. And even 1% of people who pass the tutorial cannot grasp how to continuously control the blink and blink distance. However, in the face of death, love language also becomes nonsense. Baek can't think that much. 1, 2, 3 silently counted in his head and then jumped in a strong jump. Using blink in terrain like this, is that bastard crazy? They were startled and sang, then they stopped and didn't dare to chase him anymore. The leader's face was sharp, offering a combat plan. The person who could use magic stepped forward, attacking that bastard from a distance. Baek turned his head to look, also realizing the enemy's intention to use magic. And this is also the time when the second part of the tutorial begins. It is necessary to use blink to dodge ghosts and fly towards you. Before, I could still see behind me, but now I can't help but avoid it. However, when it is difficult to have a system to worry about, the magic power leak syndrome skill is immediately activated. The auxiliary skills of magic power leak syndrome, sixth sense and simultaneous cognitive acceleration are turned on. Baek can see magical attacks and dodge them easily. He turned on a blink and flew a few meters away from the attack site, landed on the ground, sighed nervously and felt lucky, almost died. Finally, the third tutorial jumps over the cliff with blink. The only way to jump over is to control the blink distance perfectly. Then you will meet some magicians crossing the street and escape. That is also the end of the tutorial. Baek clenched his fists and looked around, silently cursing, who the hell created this damn tutorial? To get through this part, you need to time it and land at the right time. If you fly too far, you will only have a garlic root. Normally, I would try again a dozen times, but this is a reality. I can only log out of the server and go to the chicken coop to stay. There are about 20 floating rocks, it's easy to jump over them one after another, like if you do it, no one can do it. Baek Yeseol is still afraid and does not dare to dance. Those guys in black chased him close to his ass. Looking at them from afar, Baek Yeseol couldn't help but feel bitter, secretly thinking, the distance between him and them was about 100 meters, because his blink had 3 cooldowns, that was not enough time to jump over. It seems like the best way to survive is to chop each guy's neck one by one. And so applied the strategy of place to sneak attack. Baek Yeseol hid in the bushes, silently waiting for the opportunity to take action. If it were before, the system wouldn't let me attack them. But this is reality, there is no law that forces me to do everything according to the system, Baek Yeseol thought to himself. He coldly pulled the dagger out of the bag, now the thought of killing didn't bother him. The reason is not because they are enemies of Baek Yeseol's parents as in the plot, but simply because he thinks he can win. If you don't win, you have to win or lose, you're the author's darling. It was him, capturing that brat, the leader of the large black-clothed group who gave orders when he saw Baek Yeseol looming in front of him. They had plenty of confidence, shouted clearly and then rushed forward together. You dare to confront us alone? Stupid, you're done, the black shirt screamed happily in his head. Baek Yeseol remained cold and steadfast, not shaking but moving forward. The current target distance is 8.7 meters, Baek Yeseol smiled softly and then suddenly blink penetrated straight into the guy in front of him. The leader was surprised, only having time to raise his voice, the junior had fallen asleep at his feet. Pulling out the dagger, he pushed the opponent back, catching them off guard, then immediately turned on blink to create distance to escape. The leader ignored his mother for a few seconds, then suddenly realized that his prey had gone away, bitterly ordered the rest. He ran, at all costs, not to let him escape. Baek Yeseol still tried to escape, he stuck his head in his neck, gritted his teeth and ran, and countless worries appeared in his head. I have dealt with one guy but the next attack is not simple anymore. How come, but why so quiet, they don't chase anymore. Baek Yeseol suddenly stood right on the ledge, turned his head to look and realized that it had changed. No, they were using magic again. Without giving Baek Yeseol time to analyze the situation, they fired something close to his ass. In the nick of time, Baek Yeseol looked in all directions, hoping to find the life buoy. Ah, here it is, the branch on the other side of the cliff. Baek Yeseol jumped blink straight into the abyss, his arms outstretched and trying to get it. The explosion ended, the smoke flew away, the leader approached, kept cursing, catching him at no cost to arrogance. But surprisingly, no one was here, but right at this moment Baek Yeseol rushed over from somewhere holding a dagger and stabbed him through the heart next to him. Baek Yeseol made good use of blink's characteristic in response, which is that it can retain inertia before and after the transfer exam. The screams of pain tore through the quiet space, the other guy could only ask what had just happened and just lay still. Baek Yeseol was exhausted, his hair covered his face, held the dagger tightly and looked at the remaining 2 guys hoping to end them before the others caught up. A weird kid, compared to a magician, his reaction speed is so magical. What are you? The guy standing in front asked curiously. Baek Yeseol reached out to wipe the blood stains from his face, praising the speed of his reaction so quickly, but he couldn't avoid it forever, especially in close combat, so he had to finish them as quickly as possible. Looking at the way Baek Yeseol rushed forward, the bastard picked up his big sword and looked after him. I've seen through the way you strike. This brat only uses blink with a dagger, as long as he can protect his face and neck, that dagger won't be able to do anything to him. Be careful, if you rush in, you won't be able to escape. Come here, get up. He shouted, swinging his sword to create a wave of ice. Confident that he could predict the opponent's moves. Baek Yeseol clenched his teeth, without a trace of fear. See who is the stubborn king. With a dagger in hand, he rushed forward, but instead of hitting the leader, he lightly struck the guy behind him. That guy was confused, his eyes widened in shock as he turned to look at him with a panicked expression. Damn it, you just ran away like a turtle. You brat, don't think I'm being gentle, but you're happy. This time I will skewer you. Baek Yeseol smiled contemptuously, thanking him for giving him the opportunity to attack. Having said that, he held a dagger in one hand and a spear in the other and jumped forward. That guy is very bitter, he can't think much anymore but ignores the other person, waving his sword constantly. He silently observed and analyzed Baek Yeseol's every move. Using blink directly could result in a counterattack. Is he planning to throw a spear to draw my attention forward and then target both sides? I won't let you have your way. Dodging one move, he smirked and laughed loudly, telling himself that one more attack would be enough. Yes, but I haven't had time to do anything yet, the sword is still in my hand, it feels cool below. Since when did Baek Yeseol pierce his heart? No way, that kid was planning to attack the front from the beginning, he only had time to answer his questions and then kept scolding. At this time, the announcement that Part 1 had escaped the pursuit had ended rang out. Baek Yeseol now dared to breathe a sigh of relief. This was followed by the announcement of receiving experience points, promising a side gift for story development in the Galaxy project. Baek Yeseol sat down on the ground, his hands and feet cold, his whole body covered in blood, looking at everything around him. That's right, this is not a dream, my first blink, my first battle, and the first time I saw others meet my ancestors immediately. Baek Yeseol closed a sentence, I stabbed someone to survive, then slowly stood up, calmly regained my composure and looked towards that cliff, then left this place. But wait, Baek Yeseol suddenly remembered that he had a penny in his pocket, so he quickly searched those corpses and gathered some money and left his stomach. Fortunately, this group of people also had some money, collected somewhere 2 million, approximately 2 million pocketed one. Yes or no, it's not a problem, the big problem now is how to jump over this cliff. Anybody here? On this side, Baek Yeseol quickly looked up, his eyes glowing with hope, that was the group of magicians appearing in the tutorial. Baek Yeseol quickly raised his hand and shouted loudly, I'm here. There's no bridge nearby, can you jump over it? The other person also quickly responded. I'm about to jump. The people next to him urged him not to wait anymore, because jumping over this abyss must be at least a level 3 knight, and he looked as fragile as a banana leaf ship. His words weren't over yet, on this side, Baek Yeseol was already jumping like a monkey, jumping almost halfway up the cliff. They were surprised and asked each other. It's a kind of magic dance, it's Blink, but Blink can't control the location at a distance, how is that possible? While still wondering, one of those people suddenly shouted, are those two going with the boy? Following that question was a barrage of magic bullets fired, directed towards Baek Yeseol. Baek Yeseol quickly reacted, and when he realized it, he almost became a whole grilled chicken. Luckily he was able to run in time, they were on the same side as the mercenaries from before, it was really dangerous, he looked at them and speculated. Blink cooldown is 3 seconds, just now all magic with it was impossible. Baek Yeseol looked around, trying to find another floating rock as a fulcrum. But without having time for him to do anything, the group opened fire again, a long straight line grazing their cheeks, losing a few strands of hair. Baek Yeseol retreated inertially, losing his balance and falling straight below. He was afraid to ignore it, the rocks were too far away to reach, Baek Yeseol prayed that he could land on a certain rock. And now Mr. Blink stretched out his hand to hold on to some fragile hope. And then, God did not disappoint people, so he succeeded in reaching for a nearby rock. Whether he lived or not, the other two still refused to let go, magic bullets were still firing continuously. They shot straight at him, Baek Yeseol in mid-air helplessly watching the magic rush straight towards him. I thought I was about to meet my ancestors in heaven, but luckily God saved me, no, the girl saved me. The magician on this side helped launch an ice spear covered with electricity and skillfully confronted the other group's fire magic system, saving his life. Seeing that the enemy had quite strong strength, the other two guys also dared to do anything else, and were afraid to turn around and leave straight. Look at them and go. Only then did Baek Yeseol dare to breathe a sigh of relief, it seemed like he was alive. He crawled up, thanking the others for their help. I didn't do that to get gratitude back, so there's no need to worry, the other girl replied. Baek Yeseol froze for a few seconds, just nodded, but ate crow. She has the clearest voice I've ever met, but she seems harder to get close to than I thought. Baek Yeseol silently smiled softly and thought. As for those bastards, even though they are known to be a gang that plunders neighboring villages. In fact, those activities are performed by black demon spears. Anyway, it's all over, the moment Baek Yeseol escapes this abyss, he will enter the magician's territory and the black demon will no longer be able to chase him. But they don't even know who you are anymore. Phase 1 ends, the system immediately sends a notification. Phase 2 join Stella Academy. Baek Yeseol let out a loud cry, well it's not that difficult. But then suddenly there was a lot of fire, how could I enjoy school life at this age? After being saved, Baek Yeseol and the others set out for the city. While sleeping soundly, he dreamed of his mother and sad memories when he discovered his monoleek syndrome. Baek Yeseol's head hurt like his father's, he woke up startled and wondered if this was Baek Yeseol's memory or his own memory. When looking out the window, it's just as good as dawn. Oh, you're awake, I'm still trying to wake you up. We're about to go to the neighboring city of Arcanium, Lazoicha. The guy next door saw you bewildered and said hello. The carriage stopped to rest. Baek Yeseol dragged his tired body down and stretched his shoulders a few times. The blue-haired girl saw him and quickly dodged him. Baek Yeseol was still about to say hello but saw her like that, so he just dared to peek and laugh. It was so cold. But everything is still going well even though I'm very worried. Luckily the timeline is more similar to modern than medieval, Baek Yeseol thought silently. Here, magic exists in the ether world, as safe cities all have ships, flying boats and teleportation gates to make traveling farther more convenient. They were also about to go to Lazoicha and board the plane. Lazoicha lies on the road to Arcanium and the real story begins there. There are famous magic and legions of magician knights along with 5 prestigious academies. And the academy that produces the most powerful magicians as well as the best students is Stella Academy. And of course the academy is a gathering place for all the geniuses and nobles across the continent. But I don't understand why Baek Yeseol was accepted there, it's really virtual. After waiting, Baek Yeseol immediately opened his system board to check. Level 1 Mana Leak Syndrome, Strength plus 3%, Agility plus 3%, Acumen plus 10%. The sixth sense consumes the user's mental power when activated. Detect mana in 12 meters glass and activate detection, automatically activated when danger is detected. While looking and reading, Baek Yeseol was bitter and bitter. His obnoxious constitution was established, causing Baek Yeseol to not have the volume of Mana's tongue in his body, called Mana Leak Syndrome. It was like a curse being cast on him. However, at so many times, Baek Yeseol has the ability to help, detect mana around with his sixth sense and even feel any attack aimed at him even without paying attention. But there is nothing free, the price is to consume a large amount of mental power, so the consequences after use are very serious. Next comes the character's stats. Strength 1 star 59%, Sensitivity 1 star 97%, Agility 1 star 81%, Durability 1 star 51%, Resistance 0 stars 97%, Mental Strength 1 star 43%. Mana XP remaining people, Blink skill level 0. Baek Yeseol put his chin up and thought, feeling that it was okay, the initial stats weren't bad. By Baek Yeseol original with super low sensitivity index. I have been practicing for 10 years, but the highest level I have achieved is only 8 stars of physical strength and sensitivity. Maybe I should focus on increasing my sensitivity index to increase my sixth organ's reaction speed first. Anyway, there would be another way to increase physical strength with sensitivity, he thought and then used his hands to operate as planned. Perfect, now the key problem is that syndrome. Baek Yeseol looked sad, his heart was heavy. If I didn't practice it I wouldn't be able to live a long life. It must be upgraded to natural physical secret techniques. The way to enhance the syndrome is because mana is in Stella Academy, which means I have to go there if I want to prevent the end of the world and treat this syndrome. He tried a sigh of relief, feeling like he didn't want to go at all, wishing someone could help. But in your dream baby, it's time to go. Soon, the second learning path of young people began again. He quickly boarded the train to depart for Arcanium as the main story of the character. However, coming here makes me feel unlucky. Hey kid, just look around like he's lost. The rich kids are confused when they see Baek Yeseol talking. He's never been on a flying boat before, he's probably from the countryside, another guy replied. Seeing that he had no intention of continuing the conversation, they came closer to judge. For some reason Stella had to let the commoners study. Stella should be the most prestigious academy in the world, yet they tarnished their reputation because of these commoners. Baek Yeseol was bored and immediately knew that he would meet guys like this anyway. He sighed, silently exclaiming, the kids are like that everywhere. That guy was exposed, meaning he wanted to blow his head, but Baek Yeseol don't give a fuck. Then he screamed loudly and scolded Baek Yeseol, you just joked with us, you brat, stay the fuck right here. He was still not satisfied, he was about to chase after him and lose enough when he was stopped by the crowd in front of him. Appearing coolly at this time is the princess of the Adalabit kingdom, Biyeon Adalabit. Everyone started talking. The purple-haired guy also took the opportunity to greet him, but unfortunately he was ignored again. It turned out that she was the evil woman of this world. Baek Yeseol looked at the princess and exclaimed. According to the story that Biyeon is one of the main characters in this world, she and the female lead always have colors and she will die at the end of the game. No matter which path she chooses to take, her ending is still being murdered or bullied by the whole academy before being expelled. One time she had to go through something extremely embarrassing, making her not dare to go out anymore. It seems that the people who created this world had personal hatred, so they wanted to crush her so much. I heard that the men and boys all loved her, but it was truly beautiful. The feeling that if I opened my mouth, she would stab me, Baek Yeseol thought silently and brought his hungry stomach to the restaurant to eat. However, as poor as he was, he didn't have any money, and everything he touched was expensive, so he finally had to leave silently, waiting for Arcanium to eat. As soon as the announcement that we are about to land is heard, we will arrive at Arcanium in 10 minutes, please gather on the first floor. After hearing this, Baek Yeseol suddenly smiled to reassure himself. Finally started, after all, this place is my reality, let's fight. Baek Yeseol's empty stomach leaned against the window and waited, although he was quite confident in his heart, he was still a little worried. Luckily I can handle it, like if I can survive in this Stella Academy, if not in this world. He suddenly looked out, secretly wishing there was something that could help in this situation. And then Baek Yeseol suddenly remembered that there was still an unchecked notice, so he quickly opened it. Galactic Project, recommend you a special pass. 1. An item that ranks lower than the version you once owned. 2. A skill that ranks lower than the version you once owned. Third, is XP, which is all the choices you get. Baek Yeseol raised his chin to think, at least this system has some kind of morality, let's see what I should choose, should I choose reflectivity or super speed? Based on the actual situation, if the item's rank is too high, it will be demoted. Baek Yeseol read this line without his mouth swearing. If that doesn't work, then you choose blink quickly, but it's still that announcement, it's really bitter. However, this system seems a bit better, it can't be learned, but it can use the reward to upgrade blink a bit. Because you lack narrative ability, we cannot fully materialize, the system suddenly explains. Baek Yeseol didn't understand anything, ignored it a few times, asked what it was, the system quickly responded, the ability to navigate the story's progress was called narrative ability. If you continue to discover hidden branches like yesterday, it will accumulate. Baek Yeseol nodded to understand, in short because the system could not provide strong items because he was still a newbie and did not match the level. Speaking over and over again, Baek Yeseol still demanded a bulbul glasses. It was an item containing all the information he had previously collected. In the ether world, recalling and reading information about hunted monsters or acquired knowledge is impossible. Therefore, players have created many items to store information in their own way. And of course Baek Yeseol was the same, he put it in bulbul's glasses. Having a rare product, Baek Yeseol immediately opened it and always put it on to look at it with knowledge and coolness. This place is a reality, I don't know how much I can take advantage of this system. But with these glasses, I can restore half of the ability I once had. He checked and reassured his confused heart. While engrossed in thought, suddenly the buzzing sounds next to him distracted Baek Yeseol. Hey, that's not Azel. Oh, you mean the youngest daughter of Trader Dutch Malf, Jesus Christ, how dare she appear here? She heard it. Baek Yeseol quickly looked up to see that the blue-haired girl had helped him at that time. Then Baek Yeseol remembered, one of the abilities of bulbul glasses, which allowed him to sign or check the information of the character in the plot. You have to try it right away, say it and do it, her information immediately appears right before your eyes. Azel Malf, the fake female protagonist who's lightning and ice mage, the youngest daughter of the Malf family, her father died, leading to the collapse of the family. Later she will also die. Although the place where Baek Yeseol is in is the world of ether, based on the romantic story of once loving the princess. And that story is about the female lead Azel, who lost her loved one. She grew up in the conspiracy of female villain Hong Biyeon and ended up with the male lead. But the problem is that even though this world is in the middle of the story, here the story is completely different. There is now an original character named Flame added, who has taken away the role of the main character. Furthermore, this character named Flame is set in a woman living in the present day. People who read often don't love princesses and are transported to this world. So, unlike in the story, Azel becomes the fake female lead in the game while Flame is the real female lead. Although many players tried, she still did not survive, leading to her being pushed out of her role as the main character. Baek Yeseol took off his glasses and looked at that girl, then said a harsh sentence, "It has nothing to do with me, I should leave." After a long journey, students entering Stella Academy were welcomed by a solemn and majestic opening ceremony. The principal above started the introduction every year and said it, but every year he felt as new as he heard it for the first time. As everyone knows, black demons are magicians who borrow power from other worlds and turn into monsters. Right at this moment, the black demon continued to infiltrate by opening the soul gate or freeing the old dungeons to invade the magical world from the afterlife, blah blah. Fast forward to this section, to the section praising the young people who scored the highest in the entrance exam. The time everyone steps on stage, their faces shine, suitable for the main character's position. And of course there is no Baek Yeseol because his importance in the plot is not as good as the NPC store in the village. The most prominent among the others is first-year student Ma Yusong, with 9-star abilities that have the potential to approach the level of gods. He is a genius among geniuses who can control every element in the world. If I can't achieve the real ending, I must at least stay away from the bad ending by bringing Ma Yusong to the good side, Baek Yeseol silently plans. However, he was stuck looking at the girl next to him and then mumbled in his head. However, it depends entirely on Flame and her actions from now on. Since she comes from the same reality as me, being able to get to know her is a good idea. But things get complicated if she sees herself as an enemy and is rejected. Baek Yeseol felt quite scared, but if he didn't approach, the end would be death, so he had to do it. You have more than enough information about her. Flame has the special ability to destroy black demons. In return, she also has the ability to weaken those around her. Although he was afraid of being drained of all his vitality, for the sake of life Baek Yeseol had to continue with the plan, his role being to support the protagonist from afar and not to involve them as much as possible. He silently affirmed firmly in his mind. The next day, Baek Yeseol's quest to learn his talent quickly began. Sitting in class listening to lectures is like all Greek to me, secretly exclaiming in my heart, after all, it's been a long time since I graduated from college, and then I have to steal high school books, so I keep feeling strange. Having said that, he pulled out the watch in his hand and looked at it for a while. It's great to have this item in hand, the Stella pocket watch. This watch is proof of studying at the famous magic academy Stella. With it, you will be treated and served better than the majority of people who only have a magic warrior license. Baek Yeseol excitedly thought to himself, I just want to use it so much, take the opportunity to visit here and there. However, it's so unlucky, high hopes often lead to great disappointment. Before you even step out of class, the tall handsome teacher has seriously advised you, you can sit down. Now we will start the test, so if you write down your pen, put away all other items. If anyone wants to use glasses, submit them so I can check first. Baek Yeseol was bored and didn't bother to speak, waited silently. I couldn't believe it. After enrolling in school, I took the exam. It was so many exams. The academy's curriculum is stricter than that of most Korean universities. This is called the placement test, which means it will determine your class. Placement exam, it has nothing to do with the entrance exam and is notoriously awfully difficult. Based on the results of this test, students will be placed in classes A to F and even S. Of course the majority of characters are placed in class S. As for Baek Yeseol, I understand, the person who entered the school with the position of team of 1,141 students was automatically considered for class F. The beginning of the teacher's chants were heard, which was also the time when Baek Yeseol was extremely tense. He picked up the pen, sweating profusely. I didn't understand what it said. Anyway, I got it all the way here. Can I submit a blank paper? Will I be expelled from school? Baek Yeseol could cut the atmosphere with a knife and suddenly noticed the big character in the distance who was free to sit with his chin on his chin and think. It was Ma Yusong, and of course he had finished his work and was bored waiting for the time to end. Ma Yusong is naturally a bored person, born into the most powerful family in the world, and also possesses an unparalleled brain and talent, so nothing makes it difficult for him. Therefore, the female lead's behavior will determine Ma Yusong's good and evil tendencies. But the black demons want to push humans to the brink of destruction, so they will of course want to attract him to their side. Overall, his family is the biggest problem. Baek Yeseol kept looking at him, but then felt extremely sorry for his character. Looking at that white test without a single handwriting, a dark thought suddenly flashed in his mind. Wait, can I use bulbul glasses here? In the past, I often used it when playing to gain skills at the library. Thinking about it, he pulled it out to see. But it was so unlucky, as soon as he took it out of his pocket, he was caught by the teacher. Wait for the ice, what are those glasses? I told you that whoever wants to use glasses must pick them up so I can check first. Give it here for me to check. Baek Yeseol was extremely scared. Before he could react, the teacher took him away. The teacher took him up to look and observe for a while, making the boy about to lose his blood pressure. What's going on again? If you find out that it's a miracle, you'll be fired, right? Just thinking about this, the system makes Baek Yeseol turn pale. Detect a lost part of the glass, do you want to call it? Baek Yeseol was scared, his mouth didn't dare cry out, he silently cursed the system to death without caring about me. Just sit there. I don't feel the mana from it, but remember the next time I have to ask before using it, the teacher said, returning the respect to the boy. Baek Yeseol took it and felt extremely lucky. If its original function remained, something big would have happened. Time was running out, he quickly put it on to do his homework. This time I won the jackpot, the answer kept pouring out, if I become valedictorian, I'll fuck it. Beek Yeseol tries to copy to avoid Class F and can even enter Class A, but as soon as I did a few questions, time was up, the teacher immediately revoked the test, it was too bad. I just finished 3 sentences, I thought I was avoiding Class F. But that would be a bit too much for Beek Yeseol. Beek Yeseol cried a little in his heart, thinking to himself. But what's more, the peaceful teacher suddenly shouted in panic, "You there, give me your glasses now, quickly." Beek Yeseol didn't understand anything yet. The teacher raised his chin and gave orders with a serious face. "There you are, bring Professor Gray in here." Beek Yeseol lost his soul and quickly ran away thinking, what happened to that? I even neatly wrote down the reading process so as not to be considered a cheat, have I been caught red-handed? "What do you think, Doctor?" the teacher spoke up. "Magic mechanics," Professor Grahan responded after a while of looking. It was suspicious that she could answer this question, but she wasn't cheating. I didn't feel the magic from his glasses or his belongings. I wrote down the answer with my own strength. Having said that, the teacher patted his back and praised him. "Ha ha, it's really interesting, I didn't expect to see this before I closed my eyes." "Come on, Professor Lee Han-won, apologize to her and guide her well." The teacher knew he was wrong and shyly apologized. Even though Beek Yeseol cheated, he still had to pretend to be innocent, laugh and answer, "No one is wrong, in the future I will be more careful." Having finished speaking, Beek Yeseol dared to breathe a sigh of relief, fortunately it had not yet been revealed. Professor Lee Han-won finished grading the test but was still skeptical, constantly taking the student's test and checking it again. "Is that a freshman's test? I heard that freshmen this year have many interesting people doing it." The Council of Elders of Stella Academy, Professor Edeltame, approached warmly and asked. Yale Professor Lee Han-won replied calmly, "That's right, secretly thinking about the top people. From the most prestigious family that uses elementalization, Hong Baiji and Princess Envoy Adu Belet, Fire Nation. The successor to the throne of the Scalvan Empire at the age of 12, thanks to his magical powers, Jeremy Scalvan, who completely surpassed his cousins in the battle for the throne. And also the world's greatest magic tower, the Moon Tower, the successor of Magic Tower owner Hae Wonrian. The difficulty of this test is worthy of the heads of excellent students from famous families. This year the questions will definitely be very interesting," Professor Edeltame happily continued. "It's true what she said, this year's placement test has a new type of question. The first 3 questions will be difficult to solve for normal students. Behind those 3 questions are all intentional, testing flexibility. If there is a problem that we cannot solve, will they immediately move on to another question? Second, how will students solve the problem if it has never appeared in the books they have studied before? The era of memorization and theory is over. This age is the time to learn to fight with flexibility and creativity in thinking. However, it seems that the results are not very positive. The truth is that 1,000 out of 1,141 students skipped those 3 questions. And the remaining more than 100 students solved that question, but most could not give a correct answer. Among them, only 3 people solved all 3 questions correctly. Ma Yusong, the bronze body of this century, appears as a bright star, but no one knows where it originated. And Flame is given priority for admission, despite his commoner background, is recognized for his talent and is catching up with Ma Yusong, ultimately Beek Yeseol. Ma Yusong and Flame are already considered geniuses, but Beek Yeseol has the lowest score. I didn't expect that game to be able to solve all these questions. Especially when he couldn't even solve other sentences anymore, Professor Lee Hang-guan thought in his head with a few words to check. Then, he turned around and asked the teacher next to him. The professor thought this boy would become a genius. Anything can happen, Professor Edeltame let go of his hands as normal as possible. Yale Professor Lee Han-won did not respond anymore, he looked at Beek Yeseol's resume, the note was still there, and was accepted especially because his ability to control blink was highly appreciated. So the child who was personally allowed to enroll by the principal knows what else he knows. A combat mage student with special abilities with blink, we'll find out soon. Is it just a coincidence or is this kid really special? Professor Lee Han-won happily thought in his heart. The next day, the exam results were also available, and class division news was posted on the school notice board. I can't believe I have to go to see the class division table. Before I just had to press 1 and I was done. Beek Yeseol boredly dragged his body to check. However, there's nothing wrong with it, but as soon as it appeared, I was pointed at and talked about it like this. Is he Beek Yeseol? I heard he got a 0 in the magic app during the input test. Indeed, why would such a person be accepted into Stella? I wonder what's wrong with Stella's standards now. Baek Yeseol was bored and didn't bother to say anything, no matter what they liked to say, he just went to C class and went somewhere else quickly. Baek Yeseol looked from class C to class F, because he knew he didn't have a chance to enter the other class. But, what the hell is this? Baek Yeseol suddenly sweated, why isn't his fairy there? They didn't expel me because they could only solve 3 questions, right? It's over, so your life is about to end. I'm suffering from all human suffering, preparing to sneak home and fold my clothes back immediately and always hear those people mentioning my name. Baek Yeseol to run around and check it out. Of course, at this moment, I was surprised when I was placed in class S. Why is my name there? No way, what the hell, he was so shocked that it all went up in his head. You must know that it is the most special class that every student reigns in. A gathering place for the most special people from the most wonderful magic school, Stella Academy. It is very different from other levels that can be divided into many classes according to each level. Class S has only 41 students and is divided into a single class. Yet I'm in class S, am I wrong or not? Crazy. So I have to meet the main characters more. Being involved with those people only made me go to heaven soon. I can't ask to change classes, so I'll try to live as reclusive as possible, Baek Yeseol thought to himself, then quickly went away. At the same time in a dark room no one knew where it was. You did 3 questions wrong, even Princess Azel of the Principality of Malf only got 2 questions wrong. Even the sentence giving points from the insects you did was wrong. That means you are inferior to insects, you should think about your mistakes and do it again. Do you understand? Biyeon, Fire Element Class Professor Hong Yil, brutally slapped her daughter while cursing the teachings. Biyeon was humiliated and could only sadly accept the torture and nod. Hong Yil still had no intention of stopping, she moved to inject her distorted thoughts into her head. Listen to me, you can't make yourself look like me, you can't be the one being kicked out of the kingdom and clinging to this stupid professor position. You are not allowed to become a disgrace to this kingdom, you must be better than your sister, you understand what I mean? Yes, mother, Biyeon replied sadly, sitting there not daring to cry out loud. In my heart, I secretly complained, I didn't understand, I just lived the way I was taught and did my homework the way I learned. But there are questions that you haven't learned yet, spells that you haven't been taught yet, equations that you don't even know about. Why do you torture me like this? When school began, Baek Yeseol sat depressedly in a corner with his chin resting and thinking. Why was I transferred to a place full of weirdos like this? We can't get close or ask each other out like we did with our friends in high school. Just having a little peace and being talked about so badly makes me tired. Baek Yeseol is like a special child right now. But that's right, they had to put in a lot of effort from an early age, even I would have wished if a nonsense guy like me was ranked equal to them. Anyway, there will be more class transfers after each test, just leave it alone and class S is no exception. Of course there are many cases of being demoted, Baek Yeseol happily thought it was simple to avoid sadness. He glanced at his classmates, feeling great, these main characters were right in front of him. In just a few years, most students in the class will become famous worldwide. And about 5 of them will betray the magical world, of which Ma Yusong is one. After thinking about it, Baek Yeseol turned towards Flame again, wishing she could stop it in the first place. Come in, kids, the teacher now opened the door, interrupting everyone's noise. The teacher stood proudly on the podium to begin the introduction. After learning that he was the professor in charge of the class, the students' gossip began to bustle. So that's famous Professor Lee Hanwol. The number of black demons that he saw hunted has almost reached 4 digits, right? Everyone calls him a level 7 magic warrior, truly someone at a high level. After introducing it, the teacher also started teaching. But wait, from outside the door, Biyeon slowly entered in a boring way. She had messy hair and a swollen face and coldly walked in and said something to the teacher. Baek Yeseol was quite surprised and wondered in his heart. Why is Hong Biyeon, a law-abiding person, late, what's going on? Quite curious, Baek Yeseol immediately took out Bulbul's glasses to take a look. The name Hong Biyeon of Adelebet, the villain, the fire mage, likes red ginseng candy, or burns himself, only drinks espresso mix the way Akalia, has a cruel mother, definitely die. If Azel died because of Flame, then Hong Biyeon died because of both Flame and Azel. It can be said that it is the inevitable fate of a villain. I also want to save her if I can, but I haven't reached a position where I can help them. He took off his glasses and thought. Sighing feels regretful but can only keep everyone at a distance. But by keeping her distance, Biyeon appeared in front of him, and even sat right next to Baek, which was crazy. What the heck, after all it feels like everything has been turned around from the beginning. The teacher on the podium still enthusiastically explained the rules. He crossed her arms and finished speaking before the students looked bored. Before starting school, then we will have a staff inheritance ceremony to find the staff they will use while at school. Class S and Class A will be organized together. Baek sat down quite attentively and immediately preached this ceremony, although it was a bit confusing, but he was quite looking forward to that time. There are two major ceremonies at this Stella Academy, one of which is the close contract ceremony and the other is the succession of staff. Professor Lee Hanwol took the students there and explained to them briefly. The staffs were arranged from the lowest level to the middle level. And you just need to choose the staff you like the most and take it away. Changing the staff you have chosen is extremely complicated, so I hope you choose carefully. You speak is as easy as eating cake, but it's actually very difficult. In other words, you choose the staff, but on the contrary, the staff chooses the right person. In the mythical world, staffs only react to people they think are worthy of understanding them, thereby causing a resonance effect. Simply put, you can't own a high-level staff just because you want it. I wonder which one I should choose. Baek wandered around wondering. If he had chosen the staff for Class F before, he wouldn't have done any harm by choosing the staff for Class F, but now he's in Class S so he has to think carefully. Baek looked around at the attention that had hit the nearby wand. Staffs are often divided into two types, including short-form wands and long-form staffs. Short wands are often used loosely by the knight class, who cast magic quickly. On the other side is the long staff used by the bishop classes, which often focus on one blow with longer execution time. The other teenagers were worried about choosing a staff and went to see what kind of staff Baek chose to find opportunities to watch funny stories. While he was stunned, someone suddenly called him back. Baek turned around and asked who he was. The other guy quickly replied, "It's me, I'm Uselek again." "I know, what's the matter, whatever staff you're going to choose, just choose any one." The other guy was left on read, screamed bitterly, preparing to curse Baek. Baek said boredly and took out his glasses to check his information. Uselek Chekbalin, son of the Marquis of Chekbalin, bully below Prince Jeremy's third class. Just that much information, is this guy worth anything? Baek wondered and then looked at him with suspicious eyes. He angrily pointed straight at the staff in front of him and then sporadically declared, "Look, I will choose that staff over there so you can look carefully." To put it, Baek must also be shocked. That staff is the Edmuri Adamiri tree. It is the most advanced staff here, a middle-class staff. Middle-class staff is often used by professional magic warriors, or alternatively, no matter how talented you are, the middle-class staff is still limited when it reaches students. Because even professional magic warriors are only strong enough to hold intermediate scepters. There is another middle-class staff besides this tree, but it is not here for everyone to choose but rather to see. Seeing that there were still a few students still wondering, the teacher immediately urged them to go before the staff they liked. As soon as the words ended, countless resonant lights emitted, everyone immediately gasped in surprise and chatted. "Wow, isn't the staff Haewon chose the Hadnam Ikoden? It's an intermediate staff." Prince Scalvin also chose an intermediate tree. Princess Hong Biyeon chose the Suaviter Leheaven tree, which is also an intermediate staff. After all, how many people can own an intermediate scepter that only certified magicians can use? Uselek was left out bitterly, swearing. "Damn it, just wait, I'll do it." Having said that, he immediately walked in front of that middle-class staff and began to reach out and grab it. Look closely, I'll show you what a real S-level talent is, he thought excitedly. Show off usually doesn't have a good ending. The moment he grabbed the staff of light, Uselek unconsciously lay still on the ground. Everyone was frightened and asked each other to call the teacher. Baek stood next to him watching a good play, because the owner of that staff was already destined. And so it was, right after that it was grabbed by someone else. And that person is none other than Ma Yusong. Everyone was quite surprised and shouted in disbelief that a new student could hold such a high-ranking staff later. But that's fine, looking at the way Ma Yusong picked up the staff to look at the meaning and smiled despicably. Baek suddenly felt cold down his spine. But surprisingly, he turned to laugh at Baek, shocking him to the core, trying to reassure himself. Jesus fucking Christ, is this guy crazy? Flame owns a different high-ranking staff than Teravan anyway, however this may be when the plot is split. If Flame can hold Teravan, then Ma Yusong will start to notice her for her genius and open the Ma Yusong route. But if she chooses a different staff, it opens up a completely different route. I have to use flame to bring Ma Yusong to the good side, Baek Yeseol pondered and then started preparing to act. When flame grazed her, Baek Yeseol kept mumbling a divine prayer for her to choose Teravan. Only then will they be able to attract Ma Yusong's attention, and then they will have a higher ability to reach a happy ending. What nonsense are you talking about? She directly ignored Teravan and went somewhere else. Baek Yeseol's face was surprised and bewildered. What the hell, bro? She doesn't know about the staff, or is it because she doesn't have enough information? Either way, the situation is starting to get worse. Flame can resonate with any staff because she is the female lead. But what if she chooses a dirty staff? Then we'll be lost on other good routes. The more I thought about it, the more Baek Yeseol saw a dark future, so I had to find every way to get Teravan to her as quickly as possible. And so 1, 2, 3 Baek Yeseol aimed straight at Flame, blink. Without letting her speak, Baek Yeseol spoke first. Hello, I wonder which staff you plan to choose. You want to know what for? Flame replied uncomfortably. Baek Yeseol tried to cover it up. I just saw that you still didn't seem to have found what you wanted, so you just wanted to help. Flame saw more and more that he was talking nonsense, determined to go straight and not bother anymore. Baek Yeseol was ignored, feeling quite strange. She should have been very friendly with everyone around her. Why is she so cold? I don't have much time, I can't give up that easily, my life depends on it. Baek Yeseol continued speaking but was so unlucky that Flame slapped him in the face. Baek Yeseol gave an affectionate smile, calmed himself down, and continued the flattery. I've heard a lot about you. Don't you think you can hold that staff over there? Having said that, you pointed that way, Teravan? Flame asked again. Baek Yeseol nodded and smiled happily, that. And then a strange sound rang out. Somehow the staff had been in Baek Yeseol's hand since without realizing it. Baek Yeseol panicked. Startled, he looked at it and screamed in his head. What? Why is it in my hand? It should have been Flame. Then it's over. Baek Yeseol is over, really over. Unbelievable, this is starting to get exciting. Baek Yeseol has turned into the female lead. After this earth-shattering event, everywhere I go I see people talking about it. That's right, no new discussion. In history there are only 5 people who can hold and create resonance with high-level staff. Yet they did it. The most special thing is that one of those 2 people only uses blink in the magic test, a rare type of trash magic. Just listen and see how wrong it is. Flame, after being fooled by Baek Yeseol, is quite upset with him. She didn't understand who you were but was able to hold its staff. Even though I read the original novel 3 times before coming here, I have never met a character named Baek Yeseol. It also says that no one can hold the Teravan, but why can it resonate so easily? If so, then he definitely wanted to show off to me. The more Flame stroked her hair, the angrier she thought. Gossiping with her friends for a while, she immediately took her ass and went to the self-study room to watch a good play. It was a special additional lesson. According to the original novel, Azel and Hong Biyeon will participate in this meeting. Watching the heroine and villain of a series of romantic fantasy novels confront each other would be very important, Flame thought, then quickly walked inside. Important characters are all present, the host is Class A Kyle and even Ma Yusong is here. Surprise motherfucker, Ma Yusong is considered the male lead of this world, yet she is interested in Baek Yeseol. Flame silently observed, starting to analyze the situation in his head. It was definitely not a coincidence. Baek Yeseol couldn't solve anything other than those 3 evil questions. It's possible that from the beginning Baek Yeseol knew that just by solving those 3 questions, he could enter Class S. If he really knows that and still pretends to be a deer, then this guy is very dangerous. Looking at them smiling and saying that, Baek Yeseol actually found Ma Yusong so annoying, he just wanted to scream for help for someone to take Ma Yusong away for him. Ma Yusong still didn't pay attention to the other person's attitude, kept smiling and asking one question after another, and even calling his close name. Baek Yeseol, why did you come here? You don't have to sit and listen to these, or is there a special reason? Baek Yeseol is crying out loud, humming and answering, but actually the truth is that he was told to attend because of his low score. Ma Yusong is now like a Baek Yeseol fan, looking at him endlessly. He also showed admiring eyes, shaped like a heart flower. That's enough talking, everyone. Today we will review the issues in the last test. As you all know, this year's layered test has questions with such extreme difficulty that everyone has to call them 3 devil questions. And I solved one of those 3 questions. Class A Kyle spoke up to save Baek Yeseol. This boy looked over at the students above and then looked towards Baek Yeseol, feeling a bit hopeful in his heart and thinking about why the good guys came here. My plan is to spread my reputation to everyone by teaching stupid students. There are still opportunities. I heard that Baek Yeseol over there got the lowest score on the grading test. So we have to let that guy know our class. Kyle begins to play the role of a teacher and explains. Ma Yusong was still looking intently at Baek Yeseol. What do you think? Do you think he did that right? Baek Yeseol looked at the smile on his face and chilled his spine, just wanting to apparate right away. What did this guy just say? Did he do it right? From the beginning I didn't understand what he was doing. But what are those 3 evil questions? Whatever, just tell the truth, Baek Yeseol thought in his head before exclaiming. No, I don't know. His words made the whole class shut up and immediately turned towards him. Kyle stood still on the board, asking, did I do something wrong? Come on Baek Yeseol, why don't you come up here and try it out? I am so done. Having been hit by Ma Yusong's plan, Baek Yeseol had no choice but to close his eyes and take a risk and step up to try. Bulbul glasses were put on, the solution began to flow like a stream. Let's see, 3 devilish questions, why are they so much like a word puzzle? According to this example, a magician cast magic with a spell. Earth please shed tears and the amount of dirt has doubled compared to before, why is that so? The answer is very simple, is dirt crying? It's just a state of separation. After reading the example on the board, Baek Yeseol immediately scratched his head and felt really bullshit, who would come up with tests like this? Kyle over there solved it like he was doing math, talking about soil separation when he cried or something. His solution was wrong but he was lucky so he gave the right result. But if there was another question similar to this, he would be wrong anyway. I really can't show you how to solve it, but I can show you where you're going wrong, Baek Yeseol said after a brief reflection. Kyle of course did not accept it, constantly arguing that his way was right. But how can I argue after being poked into my pride for a while and knowing that I was clearly wrong? I had to hug my books and pens to come and learn. Flame above looked at this scene and was extremely surprised. She was bewildered and didn't understand what was going on. Others are rewriting what Baek Yeseol said. Even Azel and Hong Biyeon were supposed to be arguing now, but were all focused on the issue. Is it okay to choose like that? Baek Yeseol thought to himself. After successfully playing the role of a teacher, Baek Yeseol happily laughed. Have fun with Ma Yusong's appointment to meet again tomorrow. It was fun on his face, but as soon as he left, Baek Yeseol immediately collapsed. Eights, damn it, why did I get caught up with Ma Yusong? Forget about tomorrow, I don't want to see your face until the day I die. He held his head and wondered why he was paying attention to him. There are no exceptions between the characters except Flame. While thinking, he suddenly saw Hong Biyeon at the door. Baek Yeseol coldly walked past. But surprisingly, she actually called out back to him. Baek Yeseol, I have something to ask you. Baek Yeseol's face changed color, turned around and stammered in response, what's wrong? Hong Biyeon immediately responded in an annoyed voice, why didn't you explain the solution first? Baek Yeseol was now completely standing still, just wanting to scream for her to understand. It's not that I don't explain, it's that I can't explain. Such a meaningless question can be solved logically. Seeing that the other person did not answer, Hong Biyeon shyly continued. I see, you don't want to say your solution is there, right? Then I'll pay you back, what? Baek Yeseol suddenly exclaimed. I will compensate you fairly. So if you have any words in mind, just say them all to me. The more I heard Baek Yeseol became more confused, he raised his voice and then went to the library to work as a tutor. Holding a few test papers in his hand, Baek Yeseol asked in question. I don't understand why you paid me to understand those 3 questions in the layered test. I have my own reasons, so just say it. Yes, ladies, but you're only 3 questions wrong, aren't you ashamed to ask someone like me who did everything wrong? Hong Biyeon replied calmly, no, the only thing that embarrassed me was that I still didn't know how to solve these questions. If I can find the answer, I'm willing to do anything. It sounded like a model student. Baek Yeseol was still wondering and continued asking, but why me? He was a princess, so he certainly still had many other friends to ask. Hong Biyeon was extremely surprised to hear Baek Yeseol say, explaining to him why he came to her. If the number of people is correct in all 3 of those evil questions, then there are only 3 people including you. Hong Biyeon shyly stroked her hair and continued, there are trap questions that cannot be solved, but Ma Yusong, Flame and you can solve them, so now I'm stuck in a difficult position. Baek Yeseol came here and suddenly shouted in panic, is this a difficult question, like this that no one can solve? Now you understand, why was I accepted into S class, and why did Flame leave you so far away? Baek Yeseol doesn't know all the details about the world here, He doesn't even know there are some difficult questions like this. But Flame is different, she has read the whole novel, so even if she doesn't know about the plot, she definitely has to know about how to install the plot, including 3 difficult questions like this. But suddenly from the beginning, a supporting character appeared that was not in the original plot, picking his head here, causing Flame to have no choice but to accept Baek Yeseol's appearance. Bean, so that's why she behaves like that. Baek Yeseol held his head and silently lamented. Seeing him dull, Hong Biyeon asked, but was pushed aside by Baek Yeseol. He seriously frowned at her. You still haven't forgotten that you promised to follow my request for helping you solve this question. I have a very simple request, please fix my staff into a magic mirror. Your time in the kingdom can do it easily. Only mercenaries use that type of weapon, so Hong Biyeon is quite suspicious. But Baek Yeseol tried to cover it up according to his style for her to believe, but he shouldn't have told her that he was a flawed person. Finally, the negotiation was successful. Now let's start studying. Baek Yeseol just pointed to the topic. Okay, then let me show you how to solve this sentence first. The solution is to change your perspective. Baek Yeseol knows Hong Biyeon's weakness, which is that she always strictly follows the books and it has caused her to get stuck. But she can only realize that when she studies until year 2, after losing to Flame in a very classic way. I don't think it's possible to help her have a clear vision, but only she's on the right track, Baek Yeseol thought, then quickly went into the detailed explanation of the question. Do you know what a word puzzle is? Hong Biyeon replied bewilderedly, meaningless, it seems I've heard it before. Let me give you an example of what is between the knee and the knee. Hong Biyeon raised her chin and thought for a while, then slowly answered, back of the knee. No, the answer is. He excitedly explained to her, the question was between the knee and the knee, remember? Hong Biyeon thought silently, then suddenly got angry when she found out she had just been played. Baek Yeseol smiled faintly, comforting her to cool down. Why don't you look at me like that? Calm down and look back at the question. There are many equations and formulas that you don't really know. So you have to solve it by taking advantage of your creativity. Can you memorize the creative way? Hong Biyeon seemed to enlighten, changing his face and silently sitting and listening to the explanation. Of course, knowing a lot of spells and techniques is very important. But for a magician, the most important thing is to cross the line in his way of thinking. Magic can develop with just the slightest change. But he thought the way he knew, magic is not simply memorized and cast. You may be better than me in analytical and judgmental thinking. But he lacked the most important thing to form a magician, creativity. Seeing that Hong Biyeon still didn't say anything, his face became more and more serious. Baek Yeseol thought he had eaten this fruit, tried to save it, scratched his head and ear and asked her if she understood. Hong Biyeon is smart, saying 100, nodding in response, of course I understand. Even Baek Yeseol didn't understand what she just said, but she did, it was virtual. And then Baek Yeseol started asking the most inanimate word puzzles he had ever heard. Hong Biyeon couldn't answer any questions, so she was about to cry. Baek Yeseol is afraid, but if a girl cries, it's wrong for a man to do anything. He tried to think of the easiest sentence possible, so what would the clouds say to the sea when it rained? Hong Biyeon raised his chin to think. Baek Yeseol silently prayed that she would be able to answer, otherwise he would run out of ways. I'm falling into the sea, she replied. Baek Yeseol was stunned and answered for a while, you guessed right. Hearing that, Hong Biyeon immediately smiled happily. This was the first time Baek Yeseol saw her smile in reality, so quite suddenly, he was stunned for a moment. To continue, Baek Yeseol praised her, it's true that God's children are different, your creativity has increased. Hong Biyeon was very happy, but she had to retort, pretending to coldly urge Baek Yeseol not to compliment her anymore, ask another question. And so after 3 hours of teaching, the two of them's class finally ended. Baek Yeseol's eyes darkened, he had no strength left, and was extremely tired on the way back. Hong Biyeon is an excellent magician with an iron mind, but her weakness is her way of thinking. To exploit that weakness, you have to do it yourself. We have to quickly fix the Terravan into a magic sword, that's how we can use it. Well, that's enough, I don't think about it anymore, I'll just go buy a book and go back to study. It's around here, right? I don't remember anymore. Baek Yeseol walked around looking and muttered. Finally, after a while of searching, Baek Yeseol saw what he needed. It's an old bookstore, but inside there are many priceless things. Baek Yeseol knew clearly that there was a research book by Mage, the top graduate of Stella Academy 10 years ago, hidden here. Previously, just pressing a button would have involved information appear on the screen. In real life, there needs to be a textbook for the main major. Along with that, the rate of score increase will also vary depending on the type of book used. Initially I bought books at famous bookstores, but perfect books were hidden in signless stores like this. Baek Yeseol thought about the past and then silently thought about it. If I take a magic science class while keeping Mei's research book, I will probably receive full points. Well, just put on bulbul glasses and you'll get a high score. Just thinking about it makes Baek Yeseol excited. Oh, here it is. I finally found that book in the corner of the wall. I was about to raise my hand to reach it, but someone else also wanted to see it. Surprised, Baek Yeseol exclaimed, "Azel." She turned around and asked him if he knew me. Baek Yeseol shyly explained, "Of course, you're so famous." Azel felt right and responded friendly. "Ah, I remember, you're in the additional group, your name is Baek Yeseol, right?" She really liked the debate, it's just a pity that you haven't finished explaining yet. "Anyway, nice to meet you." Having said that, she immediately went somewhere else to choose the book she liked. Baek Yeseol looked at her and wondered, doesn't she remember meeting me before entering the academy? Just as I thought, Azel hadn't found the answer to that question. Fortunately, the book that Baek Yeseol needed had not been taken away, and the reason why she was here, still wondering about the price of the new book, Baek Yeseol also understood a few parts. This bookstore usually only sells used books, so this is a place where poor students like him often visit. Since Azel had lost everything due to the family incident, she probably had no other choice but to come here. Well, she was murdered by a black demon. Sadly, a princess like him came here to buy books but was worried about the price because he didn't have money. Baek Yeseol felt extremely sorry for her. Furthermore, Azel also has an unfortunate ending in the original novel. She even predeceases Flame, who later becomes the world's protagonist. It can be said that in this world, Azel was hit by a dumbbell star. Even though he felt sorry for her, Baek Yeseol was poor, so he had to ignore her and take the bookbinders he had collected and go to the counter to happily pay. Azel was quite surprised by the topics Baek Yeseol had bought, all of which were topics like ceiling's high theory. It was an ancient magic that forced the use of an item, so in the world of alchemy and magical science today, not many people use it anymore. Baek Yeseol smiled brightly like a flower, turned to the girl looking at him with a questioning expression. It was true that it was a topic that didn't have too many users. That's why I chose it. Everyone is like you, wouldn't it be easier for me to get high scores in class, but that's it, I'll go first. It's true what Azel said, very few people choose ceiling's theory class, but there are so many that Baek Yeseol may invest little time in it and the scores are still high compared to other classes. The second day, Azel sadly brought her notebook to the Vain Jutsu class, thinking in her mind that this class was easy to get high scores, so it probably wasn't that bad. But surprisingly, because everyone thinks so, the class is very crowded. Sitting with a sore butt listening to the lecture is so boring that it's time to go out and get something to get rid of. Azel sighed tiredly, complaining about her fate. It was really troublesome. If everyone in all classes applied for this subject, then getting a scholarship would be difficult to do. Her stomach had just screamed, looking at the food tickets for the semester that had been given out, but her heart was already sad and now it was even sadder. Since I only received 60 food tickets for this semester, I probably only ate a few sandwiches today. But I haven't had time to eat yet. Passing by the next class, I saw Baek Yeseol sitting attentively listening to the lecture there. Azel looked through the classroom. There were only a few people and all of them didn't get good grades. A thought suddenly flashed through her mind. If I were signing for this class, my score could still increase steadily without having to spend any effort studying. And if I spent that time studying other subjects, I would probably receive more scholarships. Thinking of this, she turned to Baek Yeseol, who was resting her chin and thinking over there. Wondering if he knew from the beginning that this would be easy to get points for. Did he plan from the beginning to make this semester easier? Wondering and then answering herself, Azel shook her head to dispel the thought of that night. No, there's nothing wrong with that, maybe it's just a coincidence. But I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but she just goes in and learns first, maybe it's as good as I thought. Listening to Professor of Holy Moon Studies, Leidon explain on the board, Baek Yeseol turned to the side and was startled to see Azel also here. I don't remember any of the main characters choosing this class, but it has nothing to do with me. The magician who founded magic left behind 12 holy moons and disappeared. Does anyone here know about the 12 holy moons? The teacher turned down and asked the students. Azel was brightly intelligent and quickly responded, the 12th holy moon is also known as the guardian of the continent's balance of power. People say they are scattered across the continent, carrying their obligations thousands of years ago. Professor Leidon also quickly continued, yes, they have special power to protect this continent. For example, the holy moon symbolizes summer, and the lower 6 lunar chains use a red flame to symbolize it. Legend has it that those fires will never be extinguished. If you go to the deep sea of Alamanca, you can still admire those fires. If you're curious, don't be shy and just watch. What the teacher said is very easy: go see whatever you like. As long as an object enters the territory of the Dragon King of Alamanca, it will die immediately. According to the teacher, each month of the moon has different powers, but legend says that once they gather together, a miracle will happen. No one knows what miracles are, because they fell asleep thousands of years ago. Baek Yeseol also nodded repeatedly in agreement. That's right, at least I've been to meet a few saints before. But when I only met 5 people, the time of events was limited, so much because I worked hard to accumulate information from other players. Besides, no one has yet met more holy moons than me. If my guess is correct, then surely those 12 holy moons will have something to do with the real ending. No one has been able to reach the real end in the past 10 years, the answer must definitely lie where no one has found it. I've only met 5 of them, after almost dying 1,000 times. Thinking of this, Baek Yeseol was a little scared, but if he wanted to achieve the final ending, he had no other choice, so he had to risk eating a lot and start over. At the same time in Professor Hong Yeil's fire class, everyone is hearing that while actually working. The teacher told the students to be very careful, because no matter how strong the attack was, as long as it was deflected in the opponent's direction, it would become useless immediately. But still no one made a soul, not even Hong Biyeon, preparing to be beaten instead of rice. Hong Biyeon sat on the chair dejectedly thinking about his mistake just now. I revealed my flaws in front of my mother again, she must be very disappointed. While thinking about it, someone came to get acquainted. The classmate walked to the door and said kindly, "Princess, are you okay?" Seeing Hong Biyeon silent, her friend spoke up and said, "You're really good, Princess, you use magic like me and are 1,000 times stronger." Hong Biyeon felt like she was being tantalized. So what, I couldn't even hit the target. No matter what she said, the other girl still smiled and praised, showing great admiration for her. Hong Biyeon just noticed now that this girl is also a fire mage, her name is Ah Hwang. Looks like you've heard that name somewhere before. A genius fire magician has appeared. Yet now I still think she is nothing compared to my magic. Hong Biyeon thought that he would open his heart and comfortably talk to his friend a bit. After finishing, she immediately returned to her room, but her mood was as bad as hell. Bodyguard Ye Taran also prepared a drink and pulled ginseng as usual. Hong Biyeon sighed and sat down to enjoy to dispel her fatigue. On this occasion, the bodyguard immediately reported the work. Regarding the repair of the staff that you asked me to ask for last time, because that staff was so good, they said that it was forged into a high-level magic sword. However, there were a few more questions, but I heard that staff continuously sucked up its owner's mana. Hong Biyeon swallowed the candy and suddenly asked back, "Why, is that a tool of the black demons?" The chin-restrained bodyguard thought for a long time and then responded to the princess. "No, it's a little different from that one. That staff always resonates with natural energy." Hearing this, Hong Biyeon was extremely wondering. It was impossible to take away his master's mana and resonate with natural mana. Why could a middle-class staff do that? If the bodyguard continues to answer questions for his naive master, it is not simply a middle-class staff. Its original ability was to make its master's mana stronger, which in turn turned into a high-ranking staff or more. But because it sucked up its owner's mana, it was reduced to a high-middle level staff. The more Hong Biyeon heard, the more stunned she became. How could a student use that? We know it's not there so we can resonate the first time. But I don't think most people will choose to use a staff like it. Even if you give it, you won't dare hold it unless you have huge mana energy or you can dream about it. She sat down, helplessly saying, "I still don't understand, but I bet that commoner will understand soon. Anyway, he's quite special." And right after starting the semester, at registered classes, Baek Yeseol is always the center of attention, making professors surprised by his level. To complete her plan to get high scores for the scholarship, Azel followed Baek Yeseol and tried to ask him about it. She identified a few things about Baek Yeseol while stalking. The score has nothing to do with it, he is definitely a smart person, even comparable to the top people. The question at least reached the university level, "No professor," but he solved it in the next minute. At first I denied it, but now I'm sure. And this person strategized to register for the course. And so with that thought, Azel stopped Baek Yeseol in the hallway, directly asking, "What is your next class?" The first time a girl asked these types of personal questions, Baek Yeseol was extremely embarrassed. "Why are you asking those questions? Do you like me already?" I heard Baek Yeseol say that Azel just wanted to run away. It's so disgusting, I feel even more disgusting. She now frankly admitted that she was researching the classes he was applying for and that it seemed like in every class he could get high scores easily. So I want to ask you that strategy, where did you study? Baek Yeseol could not have imagined that his dark intentions would be exposed in the middle of the market like this. He could only pretend to know nothing, it was all just a coincidence, and then find a way to get away quickly. Azel started the fire and quickly shouted, "Wait, please, wait a minute." Seeing that the other person was still following, Baek Yeseol turned to use reason to refuse. "Why are you following me? You went to learn those things from other people, there are a lot of smart people here. Or just do what I do, you said you've researched it." Azel was rejected and was about to cry. She looked at him with those eyes, hoping to explain that if she participated, it would affect his score, so she wanted to plan for another class herself. Baek Yeseol felt moved. If she didn't get the scholarship she would lose hope, but she was still in the mood to care about other people's scores. Even though he's a bit annoying, it seems like the female lead is always the female lead. Seeing Baek Yeseol still standing still like a sheet, continuing to look at him and whisper, "Can you suggest me a class, which is easy to get a high score on?" I thought the saint would point, but I didn't expect to respond to something quite nonsense. "Do you think you can use your beauty to move me?" Azel also joined in, making Baek Yeseol freeze. It's strange, usually every time I look in the mirror I start to get lost. Hearing what she said makes me miserable. Show off. Azel smiled, "Just kidding, I know you like this, so I've prepared some rewards." Baek Yeseol heard the gift and his eyes lit up immediately, changing his attitude immediately. "Do you know anything about the ghost story of the seventh tower?" Few people know this, because it is an abandoned structure and has disappeared. People also set up barricades to prevent people from getting closer to where the tower had appeared before, but when they heard this, Baek Yeseol suddenly interrupted and asked her to stop immediately. Baek Yeseol is about to go crazy. That's really big news, since seeing it Flame has been able to increase the male lead's love for him. Furthermore, if Flame had known about this, surely Azel would have known about it in the original novel. And she only gave this information to the male lead alone, not a supporting character like you. Just thinking about it, Baek Yeseol was already scared. He didn't dare hear any more words, turned around and left. Azel still ran after her, trying to insist. Looking at his face filled with that hope, Baek Yeseol felt a little relieved, so he had to go back and reveal a few things. "Look, although this has nothing to do with your score, it will be extremely useful to you. Join the meditation journey to the abyss and consider it your liberal arts class." Azel didn't understand and asked why. Baek Yeseol didn't know how to explain, making an excuse. "My master was also a magician like you, and just by meditating she was able to increase her strength. In reality, this has not yet been proven, but for magicians who use destructive magic on a large scale, meditation is extremely important. Because the accuracy in this long training process is thanks to the way we do it and the balance within us. But in the end it still comes from our mind or something that makes mana move." Azel didn't believe it, but with Baek Yeseol's mouth. She also nodded in agreement, not following him to ask any more. Looking at the shadow of her back walking, Baek Yeseol felt more worried than comfortable. "I really told her. Just thinking about how it can change the future makes me scared. But if I let her live in fear like that, Azel will die in this tragedy. If meditation can help her, that's fine." Thinking of this, Baek Yeseol suddenly remembered that he was also a magician. "Why haven't you practiced at all yet?" Baek Yeseol has always practiced extremely strictly in the past. From then on, the heavenly revelation was awakened and the body became much stronger. "As for now, I'm lazy and weak." So Baek Yeseol decided to have a real experience. And so immediately after returning to the dorm room, Baek Yeseol immediately climbed into bed and began to find a way to meditate. Indicators are not the most important thing, because this is reality, you need to quickly get stronger. Previously, Baek Yeseol was a genius who could express his sword aura by taking advantage of the mana circulating in and out of his body. Because no one paid attention, they did not know that Baek Yeseol was a swordsmanship genius and the only person in the world to reach the pinnacle of swordsmanship. "I have to go on that road again. My breath will determine the flow of mana in this body. If I can slowly increase the mana energy going deep with each breath, then gradually there will be enough after just one breath. Skills cannot be leveled up simply by gaining experience. I also need to continue using that skill to level up. If you want that, you have to wipe your head to practice." Baek Yeseol thought and just sat and took a breath. Soon it was time for morning. It was truly a matter of sharpening iron that one day turned into a needle. A feeling of high, a light suddenly radiated from his body. The system announcement suddenly rang out. Mana leak syndrome skills were leveled up. Blink skills were leveled up. Great, Baek Yeseol shouted warmly. You've taken one step further to the finish line, you have to find the real ending at all costs. The next day, the whole class was let out by the teacher to test their skills before entering the main lesson. The grass and wind were both created by magic, yet the feeling of salvation felt like it was real. Stella's dome is a type of dimension established on the academy grounds. It allows freedom to control the size of the place according to its characteristics. Sports festivals and other events, or gate dungeons and monster training are held here for that reason. Flame stood from afar observing the students for a while, silently calculating in her heart, a total of 141 people, classes A1 and A2 each had 50 people, Class S had 41 people. If it's like the original novel, Class S only has 39 people, plus I have 40 people, but another person was included. Where did this Baek Yeseol come from? In the novel, in the first year there are a total of 1,140 students, with an additional appearance of 1,141 people. In other words, Baek Yeseol is also in the original novel. Then I will gradually find out everything. Calm down, you can do it. After all, I'm the only person in this world who knows that this is just the world inside a novel. While I was busy thinking, the people next to me came out to talk about it and bother me. The person standing in the center is Prince Jeremy. In the novel he is someone who is obsessed with Azel but was rejected by her, and in the end became a villain. It's kind, but his every move has been calculated. I need to be careful not to get caught up in this guy. Flame thought in her head. But avoiding the melon peel and the coconut shell, as soon as he said wirelessly, Tan Yen, the prince turned to look at her and smiled seductively. Flame, who loved boys, immediately left the room and was waved back. No wonder there were always a bunch of people following him. A while later, the teacher also came. He explained the past about the training session for the whole group. Specifically, they will train in a fake dungeon. Inside there will be things like traps or monsters to test each person's level. An additional 4 points will be added if you defeat a monster with level 1 danger. 8 points for a level 2 monster, 20 if you get a score stick in the teacher's hand. The top 5 students will be rewarded with a small gift and perks when making a purchase. Students who do not get points will have their points deducted. If you are afraid of failing or being alone, you can form a team, but of course points will be deducted. In particular, if you defeat a contestant, you will receive that person's points. The teacher's words just helped the group immediately teleport to the fake dungeon as he said before. In front of them are fake dungeons and magic bean plants. The students quickly paired up to perform the task. Flame is the main character. Of course there will be someone who wants to be with the group, but she answered frankly that she doesn't want to go alone to get better. An hour later, Flame fumbled through the forest feeling quite tired. She was tired and complained that she didn't know when this damn training session would end. While walking, they were also secretly attacked. Not only monsters but even trees knew how to attack. It's true that Stella Academy is different. Even dungeon training cannot be underestimated. Flame has only earned 18 points, although not bad. He can be immediately knocked away with just that point stick. Although quite tired, the machine still had to carry the staff one more time. This figure was a monster, no human. Flame looked forward and suddenly exclaimed. But strangely enough, this person could hide her presence. She curiously attacked and took a look. OMG, it's Baek Yeseol, right? He went alone. I remember there were many people who wanted to form a team with Baek Yeseol, but he refused. I don't know what this guy was thinking. While thinking, she realized that he was holding a point stick in his hand, so she immediately thought of dark intentions. And so no matter who it is. Flame right behind immediately launched a light attack cluster. While secretly thinking about the plan, the distance between me and him was about 15 meters. Within that distance, he won't be able to defend again. But she was wrong again. As soon as the attack reached her, Baek Yeseol blink flew forward without realizing it, making Flame so bewildered that she jumped back, stuttering and exclaiming. How could he avoid level 2 magic right at this distance? It looks delicious, but Flame didn't know Baek Yeseol struggled equally. After running, a young man turned around and swore, "Oh my god, is she planning to stab me or something, using optical bullets right here?" Luckily, my monolithic syndrome has leveled up, so it's not in big trouble. Blink the farthest distance is 12 meters, move 2, cooldown 3 seconds. Looking at the information board, Baek Yeseol was sweating nervously, silently calculating. I only have 2 more blinks left, so if I use this place to make a profit, I can still take her down to accumulate more points, but it's best to stay away from her. Thinking about it, he immediately kept looking for the safest place possible. His goal now was to rank 5th, so there was no need to risk doing anything anymore. The reward when ranked 5th is the moral root, which helps increase health and strength to a certain level. Anyway, the first 4 positions will be taken by the main characters, now they only need to earn 3 more points, Baek Yeseol thought boredly. But anyway, avoiding melon peels and meeting coconut shells, avoiding the main character, he encountered a bully. Baek Yeseol was stunned, slowly remembering who he was. This person, he was Raiden. It seemed like he was starting to emerge in school these days. It was Uselex's place, Jeremy's good dog, the faction really messy. Realizing his identity, Baek Yeseol noticed the score sticks he held in his hand, so there weren't 3 of them. But that's right, he's the younger brother of a bully, getting this staff must be obvious. As soon as they saw Baek Yeseol, they whispered about him cheating and answering 3 questions correctly and also getting into class S. Baek Yeseol heard itchy all over his hands. Saying those things over and over doesn't get boring or anything, there's no creativity at all. Hey, Baek Yeseol, quickly give me that score stick as a meeting gift, Raiden threatened. I don't like it, Baek Yeseol replied boldly. Are you kidding your father? Do you think you can confront us alone? Are you planning on using your high-ranking staff? You can't even use magic, maybe the staff is the same, Raiden smiled contemptuously, pointing the wand at him. Baek Yeseol looked at him with half an eye, silently thinking about his attack plan. Hero, what to do now? My blink has only reached level 1, so if I use it to face Raiden from a famous family, it will be very difficult. If I had 3 blinks left, I would still have 1 to turn this situation around, which is the stick in my hand and I'm still in the dungeon. And so thinking and doing, Baek Yeseol gave him the score stick. If Raiden sees that, he won't be happy to come get it right away, that's why he should be good. But he made the wrong move, can he walk again? But at this moment, Baek Yeseol rushed towards him, swung an attack, and then stole a point stick from his hand. Raiden stepped back, angrily swearing, "Fuck me, this cheap bastard." The moment he realized he had been deceived, Baek Yeseol was quite far away, raising his point stick to tease him, thanking him for the gift of meeting him. Raiden couldn't do anything, screamed bitterly, "You son of a bitch, give it back quickly. If you dream about it, if you get it, no one will return it." Baek Yeseol just replied to him lovingly, "I don't like it." He learned this way of fighting while plowing with others. These score sticks are actually a buggy item. Because they are unusually durable, it allows them to be indestructible by the student's magic, they carry within them the power of magical tools. Although it would be more convenient to be able to help other magicians in casting magic, weapons with powerful attacks would be 100% utilized. Raiden was so angry that he wanted to blow his head smoke. He shouted angrily at the other guys, "This son of a bitch, how dare he take my things? Why are you guys still standing there? Hurry up and fight." As soon as they said this, the dungeon began to shake, making the whole crowd extremely panicked. Everyone quickly stand close to each other and cast magic and don't try to lose to that son of a bitch, Raiden continued to order. Baek Yeseol rounded behind them, taking advantage of his agility. They attack quite well. But Main has nearly 10 years of experience fighting directly like this, taking advantage of the terrain is easier than eating cake. Regardless of whether his friends howled in fear because the dungeon shook, Raiden still maintained his faith and yelled at the whole group to calm down. "It's still here, wait until the tremor stops and you'll see it anyway, and then everyone will rush up and attack. If we miss it, our magic will be echoed in reverse, so be careful. If you don't say it, that's fine. If you say it out loud, it's really treacherous." Baek Yeseol rushed from behind to steal another point stick, causing them to lose their temper, but only the magic stick was on their side and boom, an explosion took place. The whole group ate enough, hugging each other in fear. Baek Yeseol held up the loot and smiled proudly. "I'll take this too. If I see my girlfriend later, I have to give it to her. I had a lot of fun playing just now, let's go." Having said that, Blink quickly ran away, but staying there wouldn't be able to beat them anymore. Looking at the clouds and the score stick in his hand, Baek Yeseol smiled and couldn't pick up his mouth, as happy as winning the lottery. "If I keep fighting normally, I will be robbed, because I'm in the dungeon, so things are different. The experience of a long-time person is different," Baek Yeseol complimented himself. But he kept seeing something strange, but didn't know where. "But as soon as I turned my head to look, I knew where I was right away." "What the hell?" Baek Yeseol shouted, then quickly Blink avoided that magical fire explosion. While still bewildered, not knowing who performed this magic, its owner stood right in front of it. "Hey civilians, why don't you take another stick from them?" Hong Biyeon, the leader standing tall, questioned. Baek Yeseol shyly scratched his head in response. It seemed like he was making some mistake. "It's not that I don't want to take it, it's that I can't take it. But whether I take their sticks or not has nothing to do with you. Hong Biyeon's legs were awkward, standing still speechless. Baek Yeseol suddenly realized, quickly running out of steam. If I take all that place, are you planning on taking that place? I taught you a lesson, do you have humanity? Under this question, Hong Biyeon also needs to explain that I am a royal family. If I know and then fight, with the word royalty, stealing things from civilians is not a matter of dignity, I will take them down. You properly and then take your things away. Dignity what? Do you like to rely on the world to bully the weak like that? Baek Yeseol replied stubbornly. Weak people, I saw you playing with them. He didn't even use decent magic to defeat them, Hong Biyeon argued. At that time, she saw Rai Dan and Baek Yeseol fighting for points. While trying to attack, I suddenly realized that I couldn't deal with 6 people alone. That's why they waited in hiding and waited for their physical strength to decrease until they took action. But surprisingly, Hong Biyeon's eyes wide open and mouth agape as he watched Baek Yeseol playing with them. Besides blink, he didn't use any other magic. Even though they were much inferior to me, they were all elite people from the magician family. Realizing that the commoner's strength could rival theirs, he had no choice but to use all his might to fight. And that's why Baek Yeseol had just received a magical blow and lost his composure. Baek Yeseol dodged another strike from the princess, gasping for breath, turning his head to look at her, silently calculating his next move. As expected, Hong Biyeon was really dangerous just now. Luckily I had trained my intuition before. However, it is very difficult to avoid those attacks with just 2 blinks. What to do? Before he could think any more, Hong Biyeon was already close to his ass. This time, you didn't take out the staff either. Baek Yeseol is so ignorant. What are you saying? You already have my staff, even if you don't remember that. Hong Biyeon just wanted to rush in and knock him a few times in the head, not to be given a basic staff when he entered school. Baek Yeseol was only now cleared of the brain, remembering that he was accepted on the day he entered school but forgot about it. But even if you have a staff, there is no place to use it. Even though he reminded me so much, he still didn't see Baek Yeseol pull out his wand to fight him. Hong Biyeon was extremely bitter. She considered this a death battle, but the other person considered it a joke. If it's not a jerk, you better fight properly. Otherwise you will really die, the princess angrily shouted at Baek Yeseol. Baek Yeseol was scared, not because he didn't want to fight, but because he couldn't fight. Because he was considered tantalizing, he was constantly shot at by her. Baek Yeseol avoided with blink, trying to find a way to escape. Damn it, even if you avoid it, the attack range is still too wide, what should I do? At this moment, he suddenly heard the sound of the dungeon rushing 3 legs and 4 legs as if flying towards him. This time you're lucky, like next time you're not sure. Even if Hong Biyeon is reached, like the fires around her will burn as soon as there is access. Baek Yeseol knew this well because he experienced it when fighting PvP with fire mages. Hong Biyeon is much stronger than he thought. If it were flat ground, he would have turned into fragrant grilled meat. Baek Yeseol held 3-point sticks tightly in his hand, his heart full of determination, but who knows who is the beast man. Thinking about it, he ignored his surroundings and just rushed into the sea of fire. Use the 6th sense, enhance your hearing, and avoid attacks skillfully. Hong Biyeon was surprised, shouting, no way, to retreat magic with weapons, how is that possible? The more time passed, the sharper Baek Yeseol's senses became. The feeling of moving his body to deal directly with a magician was very clear. The flow of magic power through like that caught it within reach. The 6th sense feels as familiar as hearing or sight. Hong Biyeon still stood there, wondering how he finally avoided it. There was no other way, but she bit her lip and decided to blow him away with stronger magic. A map full of trees like this was more beneficial to Baek Yeseol than Hong Biyeon's fire attributes, so he could easily avoid it. But continuing to defend like this is not the way. It was necessary to find a way to break Hong Biyeon's magic shield with a score stick, Baek Yeseol thought, and then found a chance for blink to come. When fire bishops participate in close combat, they will use magic to create a knockback explosion within a radius of 2 meters. Baek Yeseol smirked, but I've encountered a lot, he said, then used a point stick to destroy the defense layer there. Hong Biyeon received back damage from the anaphylactic, collapsing on the ground. Baek Yeseol walked up next to him, smiling gently, I won. Hong Biyeon sat there injured but still had the strength to question, what exactly was his background? Baek Yeseol got bored and didn't bother to explain anymore, looking back and responding. What, just a normal student, come out here compared to that, flame.